Hello there, and, going live. Hope everybody can see me and hear me okay. It has been a minute since I did go live for a few minutes last week, but it's not something that I do all the time. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in. So welcome to those who are either participating live or will be watching later on in the replay. But, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in and just let you know that something really shifts when you cross that 50-year mark. All right? I thought it was something when it happened in 30 or 40, but it's something about that 50-year mark. I mean, it's not just about your body changing, but it's also your mind and how you see life. And you start to realize that healing isn't just about what you eat or how you look, or it's not about that outward stuff. You start to look inward. Anyway, this is my journey, and it's a lot about how, the conversations I have with some of my close friends and some of my clients, there is this shift, and it goes beyond what you see. It goes beyond what you feel. Is this shift in your mind, and it's almost uncomfortable. I mean, it goes real deep, and if you allow it, you can allow this to really strengthen you. That's why I felt really drawn to coming on live today because it's like I want to be in the moment. And for those who participate, let's have a conversation about this, especially if you're over 40, over 50, and you find this shift and you're having a hard time really explaining what you're going through. So for example, it's like your priorities change. You change. The people you choose to hang out with change. Your hobbies change. You stop chasing the quick fixes. You stop chasing those things that just don't matter. And what really matters is aligning with your true self. So in my 40s, I just turned 54 last week. So, the 50s has been different. Like I said, I thought the 40s was one thing, but the 50s, woo! If you can like understand it, I think it is a very powerful time in our lives. Okay. It's not over the hill. It's really something more powerful than that. But I'm going to share some of the lessons that I've learned. But my goal is to help you really tap into this understanding and this time in your life and use it to move forward and achieve those things that you feel like deep down inside you wanted to achieve. Okay. So these are about life lessons. And who knows what's going to happen when I hit my 60s, right? It just gets better and better when you start to really understand the phase that you're in. Because what happens, what I see, and even me for a moment in time, is like you're in your 40s and your 50s, and you're working hard to hold on to the past. You're working hard to be that person you were at 25, at 30. But we need to have that mindset of what did I learn in the first 40 or 50 years of my life? What can I do better? How can I make a difference? And what kind of legacy I can leave for my family and for those around me. So when you stop chasing the things that don't matter, when you stop chasing those quick fixes, a lot changes. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in, and I'm assuming you can hear me okay because I'm not seeing anything in the chat that tells me otherwise. Excuse me for a minute, but I will go ahead and continue. So the title of this live is Five Powerful Lessons. Well, that's not the title, but what I'm going to talk about, I forgot what the title is. Oh, excuse me, but it is in the comments. But what I'm going to share with you today is five powerful lessons that have completely changed how not only did I approach my health, but approach my life. Because if some of you have followed me for a while, in my 40s, I was overweight and I was dealing with prediabetes, fatty liver disease, and I was dealing with a lot of health issues. And I didn't like how I looked on the outside. And it was after I had my two children, and that's when everything just really started to turn for the worse when it came in regards to my health. So what happened was I was real focused on getting my health back. But what I learned by accident was that it wasn't about my health overall. I had to become that person who would do the things that would become healthy. All right. So it was beyond like the diet, it was beyond the exercise. Even though it started that way, it didn't end that way. So in the process of healing, I had to redefine myself. I had to redefine my beliefs and had to walk into that. So not only did I get healthy and lose over 70 pounds, I learned to maintain that health and keep the weight off. Because some of us, if we don't align and if we're not authentic to our true selves, what happened is we end up yo yo dieting. We end up bouncing around from program to program. We end up gaining and losing the same 20 pounds over and over again. But it's not until you become true to who you are, really tap into your authentic self, that's when the healing, the power of healing, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. Because I'm definitely not the same person that I was 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's an evolution. And our healing is an evolution. So the things that worked for us 10, 15 years ago may not work for you now. So use this time in your life to really get in alignment and understand who you are at the core and then evolve from that. So I'm going to share 5 things that I've learned that I reflect on and continue to improve year after year, day after day, week after week, whatever it is. These are some of the core beliefs that have helped me, and a lot of these I use to coach the men and women that I work with, okay? So you ready? And let's have a conversation about this. So if you're live, I'd love to hear your comments, and if not, let me know in the comments later on when you do listen to this, because I know some of you may not, see this until later. So let's start with lesson number one. And this was huge for me. And it was being okay with who I am. So ask yourself, are you comfortable? Can you sincerely say you are comfortable with who you are? All right. Yes, you're a woman, you're a man, you're over 50, you're over 40, you're a mother, you're a daughter, you're a teacher, you're an engineer. No, that's part of it. But who are you? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your talents? What are your gifts? What's your calling? Because I think a lot of times, and I know I'm guilty of this, for a long time, I wasn't okay with who I am, who I was. What I did was I tried to fit in with what everybody else wanted, and when I go to lesson 2, they kinda go hand in hand, but it wasn't until I really grasped being okay with who I am until I was able to grasp number 2 or lesson 2, which I'll share in just a moment. But lesson 1 is being okay with who you are at a very deep level. What drives you? What makes you smile? What makes you cry? What moves you? What gives you peace? What gives you joy? And that's very hard to find, especially in this life. We become our job, we become our degree, we become the wife, the daughter, whoever it is. We become labels, but we're not really taught to become who we truly are. We don't become who we are put on this planet to become. So I had to be okay with that and be okay with the fact that I'm an introvert, that I love to do things that I love to go inward, okay? I love to be in nature. I love foods that come from nature. I love moving my body. I love working out. I love the sunshine. I love the beach, okay? These are the types of things that bring me joy. I love cleanliness. I love order. So it has to go deep. I know I'm just randomly saying things, but I love being around people that love those things as well and help really build and encourage that type of behavior. I love being able to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what did you grow in your garden today? What's going on?" All right. So I had to be okay with that. I was never someone that was into fashion, even though I tried to be. My friends kind of joke at me and, kind of label me the worst dressed person because I was never into that fashion stuff. I don't wear a lot of makeup. I'm not the most, high, what they call it, high fashion type of person. I'm very plain, I'm very basic, and I had to be okay with that. Yeah, I'll wear makeup for a photo shoot or whatever, but really who I am is very plain Jane. I'm very simple, love nature, love hanging out with plants and animals, and I'm good, right? And, that's who I am, and you gotta be okay with that because it's like being an introvert, I tried to force myself to be that extrovert. I tried to be funny when I'm not. It turns out, I wanna share a joke and it comes out the wrong way. So I'm just giving you a feel of the kind of person I am and want you to think about who are you? Are you someone are you pretending to be someone you are not? Okay? So I don't wanna go on and on this, but I just wanted to really focus on lesson 1 and share a little bit personally about who I am and what drives me because the other ones build on this. Because it wasn't until I was clear on who I am that I was able to accept the other lessons in my life because I struggled for a while. If you don't know who you are or where you wanna go, it's very hard to move forward. Even in health, if you don't know where you are or what you want, you're gonna continue to struggle with your health. That's why I'm saying these lessons not only help me with my health, but they also helped me with my life, okay? So, there's freedom in that, being who you are and not worrying about lesson number 2, which is what other people think, okay? So, for example, I mentioned that I love to garden, and there's people that come around, "Oh, I don't wanna be outside. Oh, you wanna be out, just gonna go to the grocery store." Fine. Or if I'm really into the health space, I get the people, "Oh, that's too much work. That's this and that," right? And so it's like, I worried about that. I was like, "Well, why don't you like what I like? Why you don't like camping? I like camping." It's like I could go on and on. I'm trying to not ramble too much, but what I'm trying to share is like I worried about what other people think. What would people think if I wore this? What would people think if I said this? What would people think if I decide, for example, I used to be an engineer before I went back to school to become a health coach, or I mean, a chiropractor that evolved into functional nutrition and health coaching. So I am a licensed chiropractor for those who don't know me, and it has evolved to the work that I do today, which is in root cause healing, metabolic health. I mean, it's really changed from what I did before. But I'll get into that later, maybe towards the end. As you can see, scrolling on the bottom, I have a live Metabolic Mastery Live coming up tomorrow, where I'll go more into the health space. So if you haven't registered yet, go ahead and go to metabolicmasterylive.com and save your spot for tomorrow's live training, where I'll go more into metabolic healing, root cause healing, for those who want to gain energy and lose weight. But the purpose of this live is really to talk about certain lessons because I could share a lot of health advice, what to eat and what not to eat. But it's not until you understand who you are that you're going to be able to achieve a lot of those things that I share. So, really becoming is very important in this health space. And a lot of people, I guess some people do talk about it, but I don't think they're merged. You got people that'll talk about becoming who you are and being true to yourself. And there's people out there that talk about health and wellness, but I don't know if there's people out there. I don't know because I'm busy coaching and helping people myself. But I'm sure there are people out there, maybe not enough, that'll help merge the 2 because you can't separate yourself from your health, all right? It's all a part of you, all right? So let me go ahead and finish off with lesson 2 and worry about what other people think. So like I was saying before, I was an engineer for about 4 years before I went left and went back to school. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. Even my own parents thought I was crazy. Like, "You have a great job." I was working at Ford. "You're doing great. You have a good job. Why are you gonna leave that and start all over again?" And and if I had worried about what other people think or thought, I would have stayed there. And nothing against, corporate America, 9 to 5. It didn't work for me. At the time, I didn't understand who I was. I just thought, "Okay, Imma grow up, get good grades, get a job with benefits," and I did that. And then once I achieved it, I realized I didn't fit. I was not happy. I was in my early 20s making 50, 60 grand a year. And that was a lot of money back then for someone who hasn't even reached their 30s yet. And great benefits, my own apartment. I was living good, but I wasn't happy. And I wish I knew then what I know now. It wasn't happy because it wasn't me. I wasn't designed for that 9 to 5 grind. It wasn't me. I love to have the freedom. That's why my practice is actually named Freedom Health Systems, because I wanted the freedom to do the things that I love, create the schedule that I want, work with the people that I want to work with. So, I didn't know it at the time, but I knew that it was something deep down inside that was pushing me to leave that career after 4 years and go into something else, and I'm glad I did because what I do now aligns with who I am. I love what I do. Yeah, I'll need breaks from time to time, and, I'm on vacation now. I go back to the office tomorrow, and I do need breaks just to kind of fuel myself up and regenerate myself because I need to be I need to be strong myself to be able to help others because it's a lot of work, and if I'm not taking care of myself, it's hard to be there for others. So, it does align with me to be able to take breaks, to be able to do what I do and study and read the books and go to the trainings. I love it. I really love it. And I love the people that I work with because the people that I work with align with what I provide. They know I'm not a quick fix person. I'm not just about selling a bunch of supplements and doing these things. People that work with me know we go into mindset. We go into those barriers that prevent us from doing what we need to do. And sometimes we have to stop worrying about what other people think. Well, I'm doing this. Why you want to do that way? Why you want to go to that doctor? Why you want to eat like this? Why you want to shop like this now? Oh, this restaurant ain't good enough for you now. So you'll get through that. Even when you're in this journey and you want to change, some of us may have postponed our journey or sabotaged our journey because we're worried about what our spouse will think. We're worried about what our friends would think. You don't wanna go to the same restaurants anymore. You don't wanna go to the same stores anymore. You may get some pushback, and that is very hard. And I know what that's like. I had to deal with it from my own family, but fortunately now, the ones that do accept it, let me be, I don't really have that issue now because they know that's who I am. So, we have to do it, and that's usually the hardest part, but it's hard to do that until you're true to who you are, and then what you think doesn't matter. So, like I said before, it was very hard for me, um, to be able to not worry about what other people think until I became true and comfortable with who I am and my personality and my likes and dislikes and desires and goals and things like that. But the good news is as you start to evolve and stop worrying about other people think, because sometimes if someone disagrees with you, what happens or doesn't agree or they criticize you, excuse me, I get that talking cough. It like tickles when I talk. So, say like someone doesn't agree with you, you'll probably be like, "Oh man, they're picking on me," or "They think I'm crazy." So what happens is you just tend to sit back because you don't want to be teased. So, but when you become true to who you are, you're able to go beyond that and not worry about what others are thinking. Does that make sense? So let me go ahead and move on to lesson number 3. I didn't want to keep you here too long. But, lesson 3, I have 5 of these. So lesson 1, if you came in late, was, being okay with who you are, and lesson 2 is not worrying about what others think. So these are my personal lessons, but I just wanna share them with you, and so you can start to reflect and let me know what you come up with. So lesson 3, really being intentional. This is so, so important. When you're not intentional, you'll tend to just wake up and go by your feelings. You're gonna work out when you feel like it. You're gonna eat right when you feel like it. You're gonna get the job, or you're gonna get the degree, or you're gonna do whatever when you feel like it. You gotta be intentional. You gotta not only just have a goal and a desire, you have to be intentional about the steps to get there. You have to create a system. So when you're intentional, you create systems around that intention. Because I know what messed me up. A lot of times when I think back in the 90s or maybe the early 2000s, I don't remember. When you're over 50, your decades get mixed up a little bit. But one thing that messed me up a little bit, I used to be into personal development for years. I've read all the books, right? But one thing that messed me up personally was when they say, "Oh, just envision it and it'll come." I think it was I can't remember, it was a movie out about it, I really can't remember, and I did that. I would do the vision boards, and I would visualize it and write it 100 times and hope it'll manifest, right? But it didn't work, okay? It's good to have what you want in your mind, but they're leaving out that important step, is that you gotta have not just intention, but action behind that intention. Because if you don't put action behind it, it's just a wish. All right. It is just a wish. And I believe if I had known this sooner, I would be further ahead than I am today because we're not taught this in school. And even when we talk to people that are personal development experts or self development experts, they tell you about the vision, but they don't tell you about the action behind the vision. And I'm first to admit that that's what messed me up. Hello and good afternoon. Thanks for joining live. We got Sherry in the house from Brooklyn. Thank you for joining. And yes, in the chat, action behind the intention. Exactly. So some of you desire to lose weight. Some of you desire to build more muscle, to run your first half marathon. All right. So, what are you gonna do to achieve that? That's your intention. So you gotta be that's your dream, right? But you gotta be intentional. What are you gonna do about it? Okay? Excuse me again. Gotta figure out why I do that. So you got to figure that out. What are you going to do behind it? What's your intention? Are you going to start reading books? Are you going to find a coach? Are you going to go to a live master class that's scheduled for tomorrow at 7 p.m.? What's your intention? And that's what happens. A lot of us bounce from coach to coach, YouTube channel to YouTube channel, read book after book. So remember how I said how these lessons pile on top of each other? First, you got to know who you are. Okay. You want to be healthy. Excuse me. You want to be healthy the right way, right? You want to do it no matter what. You're not worried about what other people think or whatever other people are doing. You got one person that says, "Oh, you got to be plant-based." You got the other person that say, "Oh, you need the carnivore diet." But you got to find that diet that aligns with you. We're not all designed to eat the exact same way. So once you find out who you are and what you need, and you're not worried about what other people are thinking, then you're going to be intentional about being the person that you are and do the things that align with it. All right. Don't try to run a half marathon with what you really want to do is martial arts. Maybe you want to do more Pilates. Maybe you're more of a dancer. Maybe you're more of a hiker. Okay. What we have to do is what aligns with us, and you're more likely to do it. Does that make sense? I love CrossFit, right? I know people that are like, I don't want to do CrossFit. I have no desire to. That's fine. Do what you love, do what aligns with you, and don't worry what other people think. Okay? Because you're more likely to be consistent with it if you enjoy it. So really be intentional. You're not going to wake up and say, "Oh, it's a great day to work out." Sometimes I wake up and don't feel like working out, but because it's my intention, it's who I am, I'm going to do it anyway. And once I get going, I'm good. Sometimes the hardest part of being intentional is waking up to that intention. But you got to be intentional about being intentional. So start your day with, okay, what am I going to do today? I mean, I keep my notebook right here. All right. I have my to do list right here. What am I going to do? I don't wake up and be like, oh, it's Monday. What am I going to do? I don't do that. I got my list, okay? I did some yard work. I did some work with my, I have my morning activities I'm gonna do. I have to do things. I have a garden and I have chickens. I have to take care of them first, right? And then I have my morning coffee and I do my reading and my meditation. And then I had planned to do lives today because as you realize, I don't do lives a lot of times because it hasn't been an intention. But I'm gonna make it a new intention to go live at least once a week. But the only way it's gonna happen is if I'm intentional about it and say, you know what, I'm gonna go live every Monday. And if I have that intention, I'll do it whether I feel like it or not. I actually felt like it today. So sometimes what I wanted to do really aligned with really doing it. I really had a desire to go live today, but I'm gonna be intentional about doing it more on a consistent basis. So does that make sense? Yes, thank you. Yeah, do what aligns with you. It's so much easier. Imma do a podcast. I have a podcast, He'll do a podcast, and I plan to do something later on about aligning with your diet. I know, some people wanna be plant-based, some people wanna be pescatarian. There's a lot of different diets out there, but we really have to learn what works with our metabolism, what works with our bodies, what works with our age. There's so much to this, and we have to understand who we are and before we could actually be intentional about the steps we're gonna take. So there is so much to this. That's why I've been led to go live more, to really have this interaction that we're having right now. I love seeing the questions and I love seeing the comments and I love seeing your feedback because that lets me know, if I'm making sense to you all. All right. So this is good. This is good. So lesson 3 is really being intentional, and I'm going longer than I thought I would, but like I said, I enjoy talking about this stuff, so it's as long as it needs to be, right? Alright, lesson 4. Now this one is so, 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 so important. Lesson 4 is I had to learn to be present, and I'm recommending this for you as well. Be present in the moment. So what does that mean? We probably heard about it and so be present and we hear about it. But what does that really mean? What that means is a lot of us worry about things that have already happened and we put a lot of our energy to go back to the past. We cannot do that. The only time we have is now. What happened 20 minutes ago is gone. All right. But we can learn from that. Like, when I started this live, I had a kind of a rough start because of the technology. I fumbled with my words a little bit, but as I just got relaxed into it, it got better, right? Because 'Cause I'm in the present but I use that past or past lives to learn from, to learn from it. But a lot of us put a lot of energy on living in the past. We might be 50 with wrinkles and gray hair, but we're going to do all this stuff to make us look and act like something that has gone in the past. But what we need to do is embrace where we are now. Okay? So we need to understand that. So I have a question here. Does being present involve focusing on what I can do now? Absolutely. Absolutely. So say for example, I'm 54 and there's things I can do. I'm not, let's see, how do I put this? I'm not as fast as I used to be, and I'm not as strong. I'm still strong for my age, and I'm still pretty quick and flexible, right? But I'm not as strong as I used to be. I do what I can. I have to modify, like CrossFit. I work out, I do CrossFit about 3 times a week. And one thing that comes to mind are box jumps. And I used to jump on a 20-inch box, no problem. And it used to be a jump. And then as I got older, it was more of a step up. And now I have a shorter box. I went to a 16-inch box and I was able to jump. So it's like we have to maybe modify and change where we are, but keep moving forward. So a lot of us say, well, I can't do what I did in my 20s and 30s, so I'm not going to do it at all. But we do have to modify and make sure that we can make those adjustments because again, we are in the present. We are not the same people that we were 40, not 40. in our 40s and 30s. Does that make sense? Yeah, living in the past can cause you to be stuck. I love the engagement. Thank you for engaging with me. But yeah, living in the past can make you feel stuck because you miss what is actually right in front of you. So say like I'm looking forward right now, but if I turn around, I'm going to miss what is happening right now. Does that make sense? And then another problem is, we get anxiety over our future. What if? What if? We worry about the economy. We worry about, so many things we worry about. I don't even want to go there. I mean, it's like good to have like awareness of what could happen, but you use the present to use the present to make your future better. You do what you can. There's things that are out of our control, but I think a lot of us try to put a lot of energy in things we can't control. So we got to be in the present and do what we can be present with. For example, gardening. I have control over the food that I'm growing. I have control over what's in my food. The rain and the drought, I don't have control, but I have some control over that. Okay. And I'm not worried about, well, what if it doesn't rain? Or what if the bugs eat everything? Or what if I do that? Well, I'm not going to garden anyway. Okay. But we can't have that attitude because you just never know. But you have to start with intention. Okay. And then be present in the moment. And then when you're in that, I look at my garden 3 or 4 times a day. And every time I go out there, I see, oh wow, I didn't see that cucumber 5 minutes ago. Where did that cucumber come from? Where did that okra come from? Because I'm present. And that's where I find a lot of my peace. That is who I am. I find peace in nature. I find peace in my garden. I love just harvesting crops. A lot of people don't like it. There's many that do. And you have to be okay with that. So you're exactly right. Living in the past can cause you to be stuck because you're trying to live in something that has already happened. Okay. And then if you're in the present, you're worried about things that may or may not happen. I mean, in the future. But if you're in the present, you can you're actually, your present is going to create your future. Let me share another example before I go to lesson 5. When I was 40, all right, that's when I went through my health crisis. I was, like I said in the beginning, I was overweight, pre-diabetic, almost diabetic. I was about point 0.1 point away from diabetic. I had fatty liver, gallbladder disease, digestive problems, depression. I was done. I was just like, I don't want to live like this. I felt miserable. But because of my 2 children, I knew I had to get my health right to be in their health, to be in their lives for as long as possible. Because I lost both my parents to lifestyle diseases. Breast cancer, my mom passed of breast cancer. My dad passed from type 2 diabetes. So I didn't me having my children at 36 and 40, I knew I had to get myself together so I can be in my children's lives for as long as possible. So I made my decision now. So say like I started in July of 2011. Okay, that's when my second child was born. August, oops, August of 2011. Say that's the first day. I can't remember when I exactly started. I think he was a year old. So I think my journey started in probably summer of 2012. And I made the decision and I said to myself, I got to do this now. Did I wake up 70 pounds lighter? No, I didn't. Was I stuck in the past thinking, oh, I'm doom and gloom and this is never going to get better for me? No, made a decision in the present. Every day was a present moment. And continue to, on those days, do something that will benefit my future. I ate better and I was intentional. I had a system in place and I did this consistently over time. And I lost that weight by 2014. Okay. I lost about 70, 80 pounds by 2014. Okay. Here we are in 2025 now. I wouldn't be where I am today if I wasn't intentional back then. So I tell people all the time, if you want to be healthy in your 40s and 50s, start now. You start in your 20s and 30s. But somehow we're programmed to think, oh, we can do it a week before our birthday or something like that. If you're in your 50s, If you're 59, you want to be healthy at 69, start in the present moment. Be intentional and be consistent. Let me read the rest of this comment here. Okay. 59, lost weight, 1 point, was a size 26, currently working on mobility, flexibility, stretching, strength, balance, and movement, arthritis diagnosis, and receiving. Okay. So, yeah, it's around being physically independent. Exactly. So you're doing the right things, especially if it aligns with who you are and what you love to do. Okay, because some people feel like doing that mobility is, just a nuisance, right? Like, for example, I'll do CrossFit and I always do mobility right after. Some people do the CrossFit and just leave. That's not their thing. They're out of there. But I'm very intentional about maintaining my flexibility because I know what happens if I don't. So, intention about being physically independent and making sure you align yourself with those activities that'll keep you there. And doing the things, again, let's go through, for example, the lessons. Being who you are, saying you want to be physically independent by doing X. I want to be able to move around because I love to dance. I love to travel. Why do you want to be physically independent? That's going to help you understand your why or who you are, right? And not worried about what other people think. Because there's going to be people that be like, well, you can't do that. You're 59. You're too old. Why bother? Da, 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 da. Right? You're going to hear all that. And then, as you said, being intentional, being consistent with it, knowing you're going to do it whether you feel like it or not, doing some kind of mobility. Okay. I don't like yard works. Well, I love gardening, but I don't like pulling weeds and cutting the grass and stuff all the time. Plus, it's 90 degrees outside, but the work has to get done. Okay. So sometimes you have to do stuff whether you feel like it or not. So being intentional and don't go with your feelings and being present, get it done. Okay. Don't put it off. Don't procrastinate. Don't wish you had done it in the past. Don't put it off to the future. If this is something you can do now, get it done because growth requires movement. Evolution requires movement. So we have to be active in this journey. Yes. So you want to move on to lesson 5. This is going longer than I thought, but that's all good. All right, lesson 5, being grateful in the process. Okay. I even have on the shirt, trust the process. Because what happens is if we don't see change right away, we quit. Okay. Or if we're not grateful for what we have now, there's something about that ingratitude that just keeps you stuck. If you're not present and not grateful, I think those 2 is instant sabotage because you gotta be grateful for what's in front of you. Like, you're in a house now, but you want a new one, okay? Do you even in the process of moving forward, be thankful for what you have, even if it isn't the house you want. You have a house. I don't know where that example came from, but that's what I'm trying to say. Be grateful for what you have. You might not like what your body looks like right now, but be grateful that you're alive. Be grateful that you have a body. Be grateful that you have the desire to do better and that you have the resources and that you have the will. And did I say desire already? I mean, you got to be grateful. There's so much to be grateful for. Grateful for your family, grateful for the life you have, grateful for the lessons. Sometimes when things don't look good, I think some of the biggest things that really helped me grow were some of the things that hurt me the most. And instead of dwelling in it and saying, well, this happened to me and that happened to me, I actually use that as a way to push me forward so I don't have to go through that trauma again or go through that hurt again. What can I do intentionally? What can I do in the present moment to make sure I'm better? And that goes back to lesson 1, being true to who you are and not caring what other people think of you. And when I say not caring what people think, let me rephrase that because a lot of people will think, ah, you don't care. I do care what people think. I do love input, right? So I'm talking about, the naysayers, the ones that are really trying to put you down. They're not supportive. is a way to do that. Sharing your opinion in a way that helps build people up, that will actually contribute. But when I say not care what people think, I'm talking about the people that are very critical or very unsupportive of your journey. I don't agree with some of my friends, but they want my opinion sometimes, and I'm more the blunt, honest friend. They kinda joke around and say, "Okay, if you wanna know, like, the truth, call Leona," right? And what happens is, I'm like, "Okay, if you want an honest answer, this is what it is." Sometimes we can agree to disagree. Sometimes the truth might hurt, but sometimes we do have to be true to who we are. And sometimes if we want to express ourselves, get permission to do that, but do it with love. It's like just sometimes people need to hear because if they ask, I think deep down inside they understand that there's something that they don't want to admit themselves. And I'm that person that'll say it like it is. So we all need a friend like that in our lives. And I have a friend like that. And it's very helpful to have someone say those things that you're afraid to say yourself. Okay. So that's the point I'm trying to make is you gotta be grateful for the moment. Be grateful for the journey. If you were trying to lose 50 pounds, be grateful for that first 5 pounds because that's what happens. I'll have people in the program and they're upset because they want to lose 30 pounds, right? They only lost five. Be grateful for that. Be intentional. What did you do? When you're intentional, you'll know what worked and what didn't to lose those 5 pounds. And then you're present. Are you making those good choices in the present moment? Because if somebody didn't reach their goal, I'd be like, okay, what did you do? What did you not do? And when you're intentional, you realize it. That's why I have people write food journals and write down what's going on because a lot of people are just living in the moment and don't realize how it aligns with who they are and their health. So everything you do got to be intentional. So if you're like eating ice cream every night and mad that you didn't lose weight, okay, well, how about thinking about, the action that's behind all that? Because if you're not being honest with yourself, okay, and it's hard to be honest with yourself if you don't know who you are. So you see how this all works together? Because there's so many programs out there, they'll just focus on, oh, gratitude, or they'll just focus on being in the present moment. But we have to put these stages together in the right order and at the right time. And they may vary for you. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. They may vary for you, but I'm just sharing in my journey. This is how it works. Okay. So, quick recap the lessons I learned is lesson one, and they did work in order for me. It wasn't until I hit lesson one that I was easily able to do the other ones. Being okay with who I am. Lesson two, not worrying what others think. Lesson three, being intentional. Lesson four, being present. And lesson five, being grateful. So I'm not a master at all these. This is something that's a part of life. Get better every year. Like when I was 40, I thought I had it. Like I thought I had this, come into myself moment, right? I don't know if I said that right, but it's like at 40, I was like, woo, my eyes are open. Then I hit 50, I was like, whoa, my eyes are open. So ain't no telling what life will look like in my 60s. So we have to learn to embrace it. Because, thinking about being in the present, some of us are like, oh, I'm getting older. What's going to happen to me? But hey, if you want to be like, Sherry said in the chat, physically independent, okay, what are you going to do now to make sure you're physically independent on your 60s and 70s and beyond? So everything I do now isn't just for today, it's for my future self. And being true to myself, I learned to evolve and adapt to that. So it's okay to adapt and change and grow. And and it's a movement, it's a motion. It's not linear. So just remember that in your journey, whether in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. It's not too late. Grab that moment and know that you can do it. So these are the 5 lessons that have really transformed my health and my life and in my 50s. I hope this really helped you get some clarity in your journey. And again, if you want to learn more about mastering your body, Join me tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Go to metabolicmasterylive.com, and I'll be talking about some strategies and help master your metabolism. If you're struggling with weight loss, if you're struggling with energy, you having struggles with your medications, because a lot of you are on medications and they're making you worse instead of better. Okay, we're gonna get into all that. It's a master class, so it's gonna be 90 minutes to 2 hours. So if you do it, join me live. Again, you have to register for this. Join me live. I like it to be interactive. Have your questions ready and really get to the point where we need to be intentional and start to invest. When I say invest, we have to invest time into this. We give so much of our time with everything else, our jobs, our families, you know, it's like, but we don't really invest enough in our health and our livelihood. Okay? We'll put a lot of time and energy in so many things that aren't even attached to us, our homes, our cars, our cell phones. But what are you doing for you? What are you doing for your body? What are you being present with that'll help you be healthier in the next 10, 15, 20 years or more? Okay. So I'm so glad you registered. And for those that are just seeing this, I encourage you to register because it's a lot of information in this webinar. I go a lot deeper into health despite diet and exercise because me being true to me, I like working with men and women who are ready to excuse me, get some more water here, who done all the things, right? They're done with the quick fixes, they're done with the fads, and they want to treat their bodies the way it's designed. So I'm a little nerdy when it gets to this, but it's really about understanding the body. And a lot of us don't even understand our bodies and how it works. Okay. So I guess I'll go ahead and end here. Go ahead and register tomorrow. Join me. There's no charge for it. And I'll see you there, Sherry, and whoever else signed up. I know I had quite a few people register already. Last time I looked, I think I had about 60 or 70 people. So I'm looking forward to engaging with you, getting to know you, and answering your questions. And like I said, I want to go be intentional about going live more often. Yes, I have the podcast and I have videos that I post, but it's something different about going live where I actually get to engage. So, respond with some different topics that you would like for me to share, and I'll be happy to do that because the live is part of the engagement. So if I don't have anyone to engage with, I might not go live. All right. So you are welcome. Thanks for joining. Have a great day, everybody. And until next time, take care.